Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And in this video I'll be starting a mini series on the AFLW positions for fantasy before we hit the start of the season in roughly, I think it is 20 or so days time, 25 days time that we've got until the start of the season. So each sort of mini break that I get in between everything, I'm gonna try and get out a video once or twice a week just on the different positions, covering defenders, midfielders, rucks and forward lines, going through who the players are that I think are of value, what you're kind of looking for, etc. and all that. So let's jump into the defenders for AFLW Fantasy 2025. Now, knowingly, because I am recording this rather early, like 25 days, a lot of the practice games and all that stuff still have to happen. So I'm going to more so go down the theory route and then point out examples from past years or examples this year of players that I'm looking at, etc., and the reasoning behind it. And also just the strategic reasoning behind the structure, I would say, in a way, and what you're kind of trying to avoid because of the way AFLW AFL comparative to the men's version stacks up in terms of those sort of bottom 6 to 10 on a on the playing is it 21 on the playing 21, and how they score compared to the men's, and really the dynamics behind that and the reason why we want to stay clear of some players. So anyway, let's just jump into this. So the players that score well in AFLW for defenders are the players that take kick-ins. The marking, if we look at the marking, it is not in comparison to the men's. Like the men's, they take 8-7 marks per game. Whereas if we look at the women's and we go to, I would say Gay is probably, or Lucas Rod is probably the highest marks per game, 4.8 marks per game. If we go to Lucas Rod, we are looking at, again, 3.7 marks per game. I'm actually going to go to the AFL and then just see if I can grab up the stats, AFL stats, and then go to, is there a way to find the stats leader for the, nope, I cannot find that. Let's go to the AFLW stats and then do this as well. If we go to stats leader, disposals, marks, Jenna Richardson marks per game, well, season was 70 per game, 5.4. If we then just do it with the men's, you will see, I think there's probably going to be at least 30, if not 40 guys above that. Obviously, they do have longer quarters, etc. But if we look at the per game, 8.7 to get to the 5.4 or whatever, that's the highest in the women's this year. You would have to have someone in the 75 range, and that goes all the way down to about 81, 82 is when they start to drop off there, and that's just Richardson and Gould. If you go back down to sort of the more so the defenders, if we go, we'll just do all the defenders there, you get 5.4, 4.8, 4.7, 4.3, 4.1, 4, and 4. So you can kind of see the drop off there with that, and you'd be scrolling for a while for the men's. If we look at and we can actually do this just by direct comparison, basically. If we look at the defenders, you have got, and I know this is just the way it is, you've got quite a lot of guys there that are well above the range for a lot of the girls there. That's probably 80 or so defenders that would be inside the top 4 or 5 for the women's. And even if you extrapolate the women's for the longer, for the shorter quarters that they do have, I'm pretty sure you'd still find 60 or 50 inside the top 10. And that's just the dynamic of how it is for the women's and how they play the game, and it's more tackle centric. So you are still looking for the marks and the kick-ins out of the back line. And the major way to look for this is just through the kick-ins tab here. And then we look here, you'll see Biddell was one that did do really well, but I don't think she does well outside of that. But you're really looking for, and the way to look at this best is you're looking for opportunities. One of the opportunities you'll see is Sydney this year. They don't have Ella Heads, who moved on to Port Adelaide, who we'll talk about later on anyway. So that's why Lucy McAvoy opens up for an opportunity to gain more kick-ins. And that's why I think she's highly owned in preseason, because they expect her to play off half-back with a lot more sort of lockdown defenders around her, and she should shine a little bit more and get back to her best. So yeah, you really want to look for the opportunities with injuries alongside player movement in the back line for those distributors. So Ella Heads has gone to Port Adelaide, which has opened up this for there, and there's a chance that she just gets kick-ins here and just scores well. There's also another one to look at is Carlton, I believe, Gabby Pound, and I believe Peterson is off for the year, I want to say. Let me actually just look at that as well for you guys quickly here, and just see. I believe, sitting out 2025 as she is expecting her first child. So yes, that's the opportunity again that we see Gabby Pound will probably get, where she's going to get those kick-ins. And if we look at Gabby Pound, when she gets pretty much full access to kick-ins in round 5, 5B, and 6, let's look at her scoring. And we'll see that in round 5, 5B, and 6, she went 76, 91, and 42. Now that 42 was a little bit outlandish, that she had 11 kick-ins for a 42. Don't expect it too much. But you can see there, that's 167, 209 in those 3 games. That's an average of 68. 68 in 3 games. Yes, very outlandish to say that that's what she's going to do. But you can see when she's getting most likely full kicking access, she's going to average, I think, in the mid-60s. So that's just really good to see there. So that's what we're really looking at for players like that. In the past, it's been, let's actually look at the likes of Bedell to show you what people saw previously. So we saw that this jump of Bedell basically getting in season 7, that she was going to get the kick-ins, and then she jumped up 16 points. That's the type of upside that we want to see. If we look at Ruby Schleicher, who's moved into the midfield and taken up the captaincy for Collingwood, if we look at her, when she was, she actually, we don't have much kick-in data for you, but you can see here that you're really looking for, can't actually really see it at all, to be honest with you, but you can see how she basically from season 4 and season 3, she was playing, and then she suddenly gets the role and just pumps up in price, etc., and average there. So that's what you're really looking for, is someone that just has the role. And that's why people like Charlotte Thomas do really well, because she basically has a monopoly on that West Coast kick-in. If we look at it, 59 kick-ins for 54 play-ons, which is really good to see, because that's where you get those points. So picking defenders, it's not like the, how do I say this? It's not like the midfielders where you're really looking at sort of stick with players for the whole year, etc. I think there's a lot more sort of, you pick sort of 4 or 5 players, you pick 5 there in the defender line, but you pick 1 or maybe 2 keepers that you're like, I know that they're going to be in the top 7. And then you're kind of trying to pick, I'm going to go down the path, I think, of picking 3 mid prices, sort of that 500 or 600k to sort of 800k that aren't necessarily top of the line. If we look at average per points, like McAvoy sort of slides in there because Daisy Darcy is injured for the year, but you sort of see Heads, Carney, and then if we scroll down, Gabby Pound, etc. There's probably a lot of people that have potentially Cronin and people like that, where you're looking at that going, they might not be top of the line. I mean, Heads and Carney are just in the top sort of 10, but they could, with all things considered, push into that top 5. And I think the same could be said with Pound. And you're kind of just finding, for me at least, because I want to stay away from the rookies, is you're trying to find a way in which you can get four keepers in the end out of 5. You may fluff on one of them, but you're just trying to find four girls that will be keepers for the long run, because they'll go in the top 7 or 8 of the AFLW, because you can see the clump it's it's not as big, the differential between the top of the line and top 7, because I sort of expect it to be around 65 and 80 again with those two. It's not as big as what we see in the midfield. If we just quickly look at this, where you got 145, then you got 110, but 110, and we have 5 midfielders. If we go down to sort of that top 7 or 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Laura Gardner at 101, 112 is second. And if you even go down to third, which was about 70 to 65 in defenders was the gap. If we look at that, Riddell third down to 7th is about 10 points. So there's an extra 4 or 5 points per game that you get. And you see it starts to fall away quickly, where like FB Marinoff is now 50 points above like top 10. And still these other girls like Gardner and Riddell, who have had poor seasons to their standard last year, are still 10 to 15 to 20 points ahead of the top 8, 9, 10. So that's just the big difference I find personally. And that's why I think I'm going to try and stay away from the rookies who might average sort of 20, 30 and not really gain much value, and go for other players that, just because the ball isn't going to be in their hands, and go for other players that are in a way able to be premiums. But yeah, it is this sort of risk reward that you're taking with that. I just don't think the crop this year for defender rookies is as strong as it's been in the past as well. So yeah, rookies, usually you're looking for cheap cash cows with good job security, and that really can also not happen at AFLW level. We've seen a lot of girls, like if we go to BT, I think as well, she was one that was definitely touted last year, and you see that she barely just moved. She played 4 games. There was other Carlton players as well that barely moved up and down in price, etc. So I guess you could call people like McAvoy, well, you probably call McAvoy premiums. You probably call Heads and Carney underpriced premiums almost at this point, and then you call the likes of Pounds, Cordner, Chaplin, etc. All this sort of 600k clump, Paxman, Cronin, etc. Kemp, all these girls, sort of those underpriced and sort of mid-value players, or mid-prices, I would say. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they all go, but I have a feeling sticking away from the rookies in the in the defender and the forward line is the way to go this year. So yeah, the quick and easy tips are prioritize kick-in takers, check pre-season games and stuff like that to see who's getting roles and stuff like that, because the kick-in taker is huge. It's basically a free 15 to 20 points per game potentially. Avoid key position players. Like, we really try and avoid if we look down here, Heads is probably the most key position out of all of these girls here. And yeah, just looking down, Tarrant's probably the next one, I would say, almost in a way you could maybe say some of these. And then Bedell might be the next one, but you really see that they don't really prop up as much per se. And yeah, definitely look for value. It's really hard to completely decide if you just go Lucas Rod, Gay, Thomas, Randall, and then say a Lucy McAvoy or something like that, because you're missing out on where the big points are scored in the midfield, especially where the big value is made in the midfield, because there's quite a lot of value in that, in the rookies and mid-prices, underpriced primos in the midfield. They could be 20, 25 points, whereas we're hoping for maybe 5, 10 points of upside in the back line there. So, yeah, that's that there. If we go to the mid prices per se, there is really sort of Paxman. Paxman is probably a wait and see on what position she plays. If we go through and look at this one here and go through and look at Paxman here, you'll see that if we go through 71, 70, 70, 85, 83. If you look through here, if she gets the role, which it's not looking likely, it looks like she's going to get that wing role, which that wing role was horrific for her. But if she gets any semblance of a halfback role at Melbourne, she might be like 50, 60% owned come season start, just because there is going to be so much value there with her comparative to others, because she's a girl that can go plus 25, plus 30 on what she's averaging. So she's the mid pricer to watch role wise. Then you've just got like Cronin, etc., who they think is going to take the next step, I believe. Or is she the one that's let's just check this. Yeah, take the next step, probably get more kick-ins, I'd hazard a guess. You can see she's done it before at VFL level with a 103, VFLW level, sorry. And yeah, she's had games where basically she gets kick-ins, she's going to score pretty well. So definitely one to look out for. And then bargains-wise, there's not many other bargains, I would say. Birch is potential, but I just don't see it with her too much, to be honest with you. If we just look at Libby Birch here, 46, 52 is her high, so not really any value there at all. And so, yeah, if we look at the sort of avoids for the defenders, it is avoid key defenders. Like, yes, we say it in the men's, it follows the same thing in the women's. Maybe not so much, because you do have some still good ball users that do kick-ins for the women's, but it can be very, very red flag territory, I would say. And then you've got just don't always pick a player because they scored well last year. That's a simple thing that we always say, is just sort of pick someone that you know is going to go back to back. Like, let's just use Thomas as an example here for you guys. Using Thomas, she's gone 59 and then gone 72, 70. So I'm picking her, and I think a lot of people are picking her because they believe she's going to go back again and go 70 or so again. She might not go the top of the line, but she'll be top 4, top 5, and that's all that you need from them. And there's also a case to say that the Lucas Rod and Madison Gay could have one bad game, and then suddenly you're looking at them, which if we just look up again here, they're currently priced at 1.065 and 1.043. They might average 75 for the year, but instead of starting them at 1.05 and 1.06, etc., you could get them for 900k because of the way that the movement is in sort of price and all that. So all that, having said all that and everything in between, that is sort of the rundown of the defenders. We didn't really talk too much about these rookies here, etc., because there isn't many that, one, have come out and look extremely good at the moment. One thing I will say, Poppy Schultz, she isn't like her sister. She's played key defender the whole time. Like, if we just look at her, if we actually just bring up her stats here for a second, if we look at their draft profile, etc., and look at her stats again, you'll see Glenelg, she went and averaged 13 touches, 5 marks, 3 tackles, etc. No hit outs in the one hit out per game in the under 18s national champ for South Australia last year in 1 game, and 3 games the year before that for 6.5 hit outs. But you can see the numbers aren't jumping off the page, and she's settled. She looks to be back in that sort of key defender post where she's probably not going to score terribly well. So that's why I'd stay away from her. And then the others, we can actually just do this quickly whilst all we go through, and we're going to look at percentage owned. So yeah, talked about Poppy Schultz, Maddie Gay. Understand this, people think she's going to go back to back. I can understand. I think she's probably priced in around, well, she's probably going to go somewhere between 75 and 80. So I'm probably going to have to snaffle her up in the 900s if I get lucky. Boyd's would have to do a little bit of a look in on that one to recognize what it is there that everyone's looking at. I can see it. I can definitely see it now. So that is a mountain of VFL work for a 28-year-old. That's someone that I will definitely be looking into as a potential D6 area. I wouldn't. The problem is with her price, if she goes wrong, there's so much that can go wrong with it that I would probably stay clear of it. But if she goes right, then that can turn into a D5 area. So definitely one to look out for. Watson, just a top performer. Will she be able to back it up the next year? Interesting. Lucas Rod, same thing. Cronin, we already talked about. Daisy Darcy, she's out for the year, if my memory serves me correct. So you can get her out of your sides. O'Driscoll, they think she's probably going to take the next step up. I don't believe so, because you've got the likes of Ty, Bowers, Stannett, all coming back, which just, there's too many points that I don't think she's able to take that next step up. McDonald, I think this is just based on the fact that she played games last year and averaged some points. Don't think there's much there. Randall, she was playing... I just don't see a way in which she's terribly much value unless she goes back into a complete midfield role, Randall. If we go to Randall here, there we go, and grab this up, you'll see she was playing 68% CBAs for a 72. If she goes back to more of that, where is it here? CBAs. If she goes back more to that forward mid, then I have a feeling she's going to be able to average more around that 80 marker. But I just don't see it. I think she's going to be placed more behind the ball, which will probably just cut her off around that mid to low 70s rather than that high end 70 marker. And then you've got as well, looking here, Puller, I don't expect her to do, I think that's just, she's coming to play a wing at the Swans. I don't think she'll do too well. And then others that we haven't really talked about. Swanson, I would say she's said on interviews that she isn't going to play in the midfield. So I think this is a little bit maybe hope that she would. That's why she's got the 7% ownership. But yeah, I just don't see there being value there for her. And then that's pretty much it for players there that I like the look of. And we're just going to have to continue to look at more players like the rookies, especially because we want the best defenders there. And you're probably only going to be picking one or maybe two rookies, depending on your team structure. So we're really going to nail those rookies. If you do have them in your side, I'm probably going to stay clear of having them in my D5 area, etc., and go for more of the value picks around there to see if they can jump up. But anyway, that is the video there. If you guys did enjoy it, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and I will see you guys back here probably tonight for the AFL Fantasy and Supercoach team reviews from round 19. Bye guys.